Hello, welcome to Pod Mavericks Mavs Party. I am Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief over at mavsmoneyball.com. If you are listening to the show via podcast, remember you can always join this live show, which we do after nearly every single Mavs game, by going to our YouTube channel, hitting subscribe, and then whenever you see new live streams posted, click the notify me button to get notified that you would like to come on the show. For anybody that is in the live stream at the moment right now, there is the link to join the show here, the StreamYard.com link that should be pinned to the channel. You can click to that and go into the waiting room, and you will be basically you'll know that you're in here. So right now, I already got two folks waiting. We got Grom and we got Chris, and then we're going to talk a little hoops. For those of you who somehow maybe have been in a cave, the Dallas Mavericks just beat the Memphis Grizzlies 125-110 in the first game, where I didn't have like a mini panic attack throughout half the game. You know what? Let's just go right to talking to people. We're going to bring up Grom first, and then Chris, and anybody else that would like to talk a little hoops tonight, because I don't really know what to say about this game. I'm interested in what people's takes are. Grom, welcome to the show. What's going on?
Not much. I wasn't able to see the whole game. I just got back from work, so I saw like the last half. I want to say how nice it is to have a 3-point specialist start the season actually making his 3-pointers, unlike Reggie Bullock.
Which player is that? I'm curious. Who's actually hitting their shots?
Grant Williams.
Oh yeah, that's true. He did. He started off 3 from 4 from 3 and sort of helped break the game open for the Mavericks.
So I did a quick stats. So as of right now, in 3 games, Grant is combined altogether has 37 points and is shooting 45% from the 3-point line.
Seems good.
So Reggie last year.
Reggie shot negative percentage from 3.
Total of 21 points, 32%. And right now he's averaging 3 points altogether and 22% from 3, with 15 minutes a game.
While playing some pretty good defense, making some nice passes, he's doing a lot.
Yeah, he's getting rebounds. I mean, he's getting about 4 or 5 rebounds a game in the last 3 games. So he's doing more than just shooting, right? So, which is nice. It's nice. Also, you and everyone else had a big concern with them playing overseas and the importance of them starting the season good, right? Because statistically, if you play overseas, you don't end up doing well when the season begins.
There have been some the data's kind of mixed, but there are some teams that really didn't do well, and frankly, the Mavericks kind of had the makeup for that. A new team, a coach that's a little bit skittish.
Yeah, so a lot of the odds were against us going to the season, and we're 3-0. I can't be more happier than that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've had a good time. The low stress games it was nice to have one of those. So you missed the first half, which the only part of the game that I think you really missed that you would have enjoyed if you go watch Panda Hank's recap was Luka Donic losing his mind for about 90 seconds to end the quarter, where he just did the repeated, very rude step backs.
Yeah.
He's playing out of his mind, which has been fantastic.
I guess my only issue is he had to play 40 minutes today. But looking at the box score, I think we had two other people who had 20 plus points. So it was a very nice overall game where Luka wasn't just super Luka, right? So it was nice. I guess my only thing is actually I was actually seeing that Grant fouled out, right? Not Grant, Lively fouled out, right?
Lively's toughest game as a pro. Toughest
But
game I've seen him play. I watched him play in every summer league game, all the overseas preseason games. I didn't catch any of his games at Duke. The toughest game for him by far. And it's nice because they won anyway.
Yes, but what's also impressive is with those 5 fouls in 14 minutes of playing, he has 6 rebounds and a block. So that's not bad.
The block, I meant to post it to my Twitter timeline. The block, he tipped it to himself.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes. Yes.
That's nice.
It's not the swatting out of bounds. It's keeping possession. That was pretty cool.
Nice. But I mean, 6 rebounds in those minimal minutes were pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's only going to learn, right? I mean,
he had a tough game where mistakes beget more mistakes. And that's the first time I've seen that happen to him. Where usually, and granted, he's playing against Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jaren Jackson really kind of took it to him.
But I also
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I also watched, a little bit of recap of his play, and it looked like he got some calls that didn't go his way that I felt shouldn't have been called, if that makes sense.
The game was very physical. He had one at the rim where I watched, I want to say it was Desmond Bane, essentially push off his chest while he went up with both hands. And that's kind of one of those bang bang plays where it could kind of go both ways. He had one where he was, you could tell he was irritated that he was out of position and he thought he'd be able to block Xavier Tillman. But Xavier Tillman plays basketball like a 40-year-old man at the YMCA, where he just uses his big ass and moves people around. And it's so frustrating to watch a guy that's that good with body control. Like Grant Williams is kind of like this. But like Xavier Tillman, like you look at his age, I want to say the guy's like 25 years old. He looks like he's 50. And he just plays like a 50-year-old.
You know who you remind me of? Greg Oden.
Sure, in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a big guy who looks old as shit.
The Grizzlies drive me crazy because they draft all these guys that I love. And I was telling Josh this in the post game, Josh Bowe. I said that the Grizzlies top to bottom are a better overall team than the Dallas Mavericks. They just have way more depth. And this is when all their guys are healthy, of course.
Yeah.
But Luka just so thoroughly abuses them that
it uses everyone, right?
Oh yeah, but he really seems to punish them. Like really, really like Marcus Smart. I think he likes battling against Smart. He just really had a great time playing these guys tonight.
Well, the thing is, Luka's at his best when teams talk shit, right? So when other teams talk shit, that fuels him even more, and that makes him more hungry to kind of make them into his little bitch, right?
Sure. Yeah, nobody really teased. Nobody really went at him tonight. You could it was the quietest 35, 12, and 12 I can remember Luka having.
And again, another game without him bitching to the refs.
He didn't. He did once early, but after that it was kind of because he started off the game really poorly shooting and then just heated up. So,
but you know what I've also noticed in these 3 games, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe just my misperception, but him not bitching at the refs seems to have gotten him more graces with the refs. Am I mistaken?
I mean, he's only shooting 9 free throws a game for how much he gets hit, and you can tell it's starting to drive him crazy. But it's going to take
time.
Well, it's going to, not to compare it to something serious, but like the amends that he has to make with the things he said and done to referees over the years, he's got a long way to go. I think it does buy him in-game credit. Yeah. And it hasn't bit him in the butt so far this year. So I'm pleased with that.
Cool. So I have 2 last questions for you.
Sure.
Okay. As a basketball man like yourself, who probably knows way more than basketball than me.
Doubtful, but let's hear it.
What is in a perfect scenario, ceiling wise, what is Lively's ceiling for you? Who do you think he could be? Who he could end up being?
Oh my gosh!
I have an idea in my mind, but I want to hear yours.
Honestly, very, very similar, like a less fouling Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. is such a skilled offensive player, and we've not gotten to see anything that Lively can supposedly do. One of the things that really shot him up draft boards was really late. He is apparently an outstanding shooter from distance. We're just never going to see that until like year 4. That would be kind of my absolute wildest hot take thing, that he would be like Jaren Jackson Jr. That's probably extreme though. But you did ask.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm hyping him up because I'm just excited to have someone new on the team who was drafted and is actually seems good already, right? But I'm saying I feel dumb for saying this, but like maybe Dikembe Mutombo.
No, I mean, it's so difficult because the things that bigs are asked to do now versus 15 years ago or 20 years ago is very different, because Dikembe never had to cover outside the paint. You know, pick and rolls were not used as frequently. Obviously they were used, but it's not like he's having to challenge corner threes. Lively's expected to do a lot. So
sure.
I like the scariness though of what you're sort of implying, because nobody wanted to play Mutombo.
10 and 10 and almost 3 blocks.
That'd be amazing, right?
So I mean that's realistic for someone like Lively.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. We'll see. I like it.
Yeah. And my my last question is not basketball related, but what games are you currently playing right now?
Just Breath of the Wild. I had to put down Starfield, otherwise I would lose my job.
How is I haven't played it yet, but how is it? Not Starfield, but
Breath of the Wild?
Oh, no, oh, you're playing the old one.
The old one. Yeah, I never played it. I just, like, my son wanted to play it, and I have to play it a little bit to stay ahead, because when he and I play, I need to use my time well, because it's just, I don't know, it's fun. I highly recommend both games.
It's a good game. Starfield, I haven't played yet, but
it was, well, I'm a sucker for Bethesda games, so anything where I can role play like that is great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'll let everyone, someone else hop on. Cool. Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk soon. You have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Coming up next is my man, Chris Haley. You guys know Chris. He's the happiest person in the chat. Chris, what's going on?
Nothing much. Luka is for sure going to be MVP this year. I just, the way he's playing, I know three games in, we just have a better roster that's just going to just help him out. He's just playing out of his mind right now. I'm just so happy with how things are going. Mavs are 3-0. Stars win. Rangers win.
I didn't know the Stars won. That's good.
Yeah. They're doing pretty good this year. They've only lost once. So this is great. And Derrick Jones Jr., I could see now why he was starting. They must have seen something in practice, or
he reminds me of, man. This is going to be a dumb shit cross sports comparison. The way he runs down the court reminds me of how DeMarco Murray used to run with Oklahoma and with the Cowboys. Just like eye back diving at the rim stuff. And he's like, I'm going to get there. I don't care if I get hit and knocked into next week. Because I remember Murray, whenever the Cowboys used him, it felt like he was going to get like 350 carries, and he was just going to evaporate into like Thanos dust at some point. And that's sort of what I feel like with with Derrick Jones Jr., because like, dude, the way he was running down the floor tonight, I keep thinking about that pass that he got from Luka, where he got the left-handed layup over the outstretched arm of Jaren Jackson Jr. Mavs don't do that. Yeah, this is great.
Drawing those fouls, and honestly, I didn't really know much about him because
he can't hit the threes that he's hitting. Like that's fake. The threes he's hitting are utterly fake. But if he can scare teams, that's all that matters, because it's about what you think. Because if he has somebody on him every now and again, if he hits 1-3 every 2 games, I'm going to be excited.
That's the thing about basketball, and I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm the guy at the Y, and I'm just saying, like, I hit threes too. Like, you see one go down, and the thing is, he's going to get these shots. Luka gets double teamed all the time, especially if Kyrie's out tonight. We all knew Luka was going to get double teamed a lot. these guys are just getting. I mean, they're NBA players. They shoot constantly, practice these threes, and they're wide open. They're going to take them. And thank God, Tim Hardaway Jr. He giveth, and he taketh away, and he gave it tonight. I was afraid at first. He seemed like he was getting off slow, but then he just out of the blue was just hitting some more threes. And
let me ask you a question as a longtime Mavs fan and Tim Hardaway watcher. Do you prefer early hot Tim or Tim who heats up slowly?
I would say early hot Tim, and I would hope that he would just get him out in the second half.
Well, did you see that you were in here in the last show where Josh Bowe shared the last 10 shots that Tim Hardaway took?
Yeah, 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. See, that's where it's like the when he gets hot early, he's like, "Oh, I'm here. I'm going to do the thing."
I was at that game, and I'll tell you, man, when he was missing those run to the basket floaters, I swear to God, we were all – you could just hear the cringe just in the crowd. Sure. And I'm just like,
he hit the 1-3 tonight that was the absolute prayer shot that hit the back of the rim, bounced all the way up and went in. I mean, like, that was impossible, and he did it anyway.
There's so many times he's just like, you just know he's about to impulsively take a shot. I'm like, don't do it, dude. Don't do it.
That's right.
And he does it. So if he makes it, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, let's just get to the next play. Let's see who else. Seth Curry, I'm kind of surprised. He's not really getting off to a –
But did you see how they freaked out every time he got the ball?
Yeah, like I would figure he's going to get wide open shots too. Or
he's not, because he's Seth Curry. But when he gets blitzed like that, it results in everything else in the defense breaking down. It's an oh shit. Seth Curry might have a shot. Oh God, and that changes things. That really does, because he only hit one, and then he missed his next 4, I think, or maybe it's one of his first 2. But that sort of thing is really invaluable to the way the offense gets going, because it's a fear thing, and that's important.
Yeah, he just got to have one good game, and I think he'll be fine. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as we have depth on our team, especially when guys are out, we'll be fine. I mean, Grant Williams, I like him a lot. He makes those threes, but I've noticed against Wemby and against Jaren Jackson, he just he's such a thick player that these guys can't really back him down. Yep. I know Grant Williams isn't very tall, but he's got a thick body, so he kind of keeps out of the paint. But I'm just glad we beat the Grizzlies, because those 3 games at the end of the last season was some bullshit. Like, I don't know, Derek Roddy, is that his name? He just had the game of
David Roddy, because he's built like
with a like sideshow Bob.
To me, it's like 1980s WWE, where there were these 2 wrestlers with spiked shoulder pads, the Legion of Doom.
The Road Warriors.
The Road Warriors, yeah.
Animal, yeah.
That's who he reminds me of. Like that he's a Road Warrior to me. I don't know. I like watching him play.
They don't have Ja Morant, and this should be a lesson to Ja Morant about if he really cares about his team and doesn't want to just get paid. If he cares about his team, this is what happens when you make mistakes. Sure. I mean, you're costing your team. It could be the season, and it's 0-4, but I mean, you're going to be 0-4 in the West this year. That's not, you're digging yourself a hole. So, but they're like, missing Steven Adams and all. But yeah, whatever. We're not. At least we don't have to play the Grizzlies with Ja Morant until like the 4th game of their matchup. So the first 3 times we played the Grizzlies, they're not going to have Ja Morant.
Right.
And one of them was the night we won. So. But yeah, let's just keep this up. Honestly, I'm not being optimistic, but I seriously think even with Denver, I think we could start out 8-0. Like, we don't have to be great on defense. I don't think we even have to be good on defense. I think we just got to be okay.
Well, the Bulls are to me, and that's who we play next for the Bulls. The Bulls are a kind of a snake in the tall grass team, where they have
only meeting after their
but they have the kind of guys who just give the Mavericks trouble.
Yeah, Zach LaVine. Yeah.
Zach LaVine lights Dallas on fire. He just does.
And I'll just say the last time the Mavs and Bulls, when they were in Dallas, was that second before the last game of the season, and I was at that, and it hurt my soul to have to not say root against the Mavs, but for business purposes, you had to go against the Mavericks for. You had to have that loss, for Derek Lively. So it's just so funny how the media made it seem like we invented tanking. We're like tanking the last 2 games, and they just make this big spectacle of it. Even though the Trailblazers were doing that with,
they did it for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But whatever. The Mavs, the ESPN, what are they hating on the Mavs? Let's just keep this show.
No, quiet. I don't want any Mavs talk. I want the Mavericks to start out and be like, oh,
I don't want to take a spotlight. I'll be under the radar and just have a good record.
The game 30 where it's like, where Zach Lowe gets on the show and he's like, who I like? The Dallas Mavericks. They'll have one beer. That's right.
But anyway, yeah, I hope you guys have a good night. And let's just let's keep this winning streak alive. So.
You too, buddy. You too. All right, coming up next is going to be my friend Micah. We've been in here about 20 minutes. These shows always are kind of an acquired taste. But if those of you who are in here wouldn't mind doing me a small favor, if you could go hit that like button, I'd really appreciate it. Apparently that does something, at least when you're looking for things in the algorithm, and directs potential new subscribers to the show. Speaking of the word subscribe, if you could also consider subscribing to Pod Maverick, I would be very grateful. We have a soft goal of 5,000 subs by the end of the year. I think we can do that. We'll see. We're at about 1,800 right now. Josh and I started in April after moving over to a new podcast basically supporter, because SB Nation decided to cut us and everybody else to get the pod that they replaced us with is Andre Iguodala's pod. So that was a fun thing to learn these last few weeks. But yeah, I really appreciate your support and everybody's hanging out with us in here. All right, coming up to the show now is my man Micah, who is great at one of the things I like when I bring Micah up is you can tell he's like always wandering around his house. It's my favorite thing. Micah, what's up, man?
What's going on, Kirk?
Oh, another day.
It's a good DFW Sports Day, actually.
Does it feel good?
So, yeah, all three teams won.
My wife is a Cardinals fan, and she just like hates the Rangers with like a religious fervor. And I'm like, why can't we be happy for our friends? And she is just like, absolutely not. It's great. Sports is the last realm where hatred is socially acceptable, which is good. So, anyway, what are you thinking?
Derrick Jones Jr. has Shane. So I was surprised. I'm not gonna lie. It was just like, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
What do you mean?
I think he's a useful player, but nobody can convince me that he's starter caliber. I'm
slot him in the 82 game starter. I'd agree with that. He's not.
Right.
He's not. They need to use him situationally, and I think this game is, as happy as I am for him because he needed it and they needed it. This game is going to serve for a little bit of confirmation bias of this is why we started him. But at least I understand why they started him now. I did not get it. I'm like, what is the point?
I understand how to say this. I understand the theory.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it feels like and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of agree. I think Jason Kidd just does not believe in Josh Green playing a forward spot. And he wants, in theory, a Derrick Jones looking player to play that
somebody
spot.
Who's just, and correct me if I'm wrong here. When you say that, you mean someone who is just a little bit taller and a little bit longer.
Both. Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, like if Omax was ready, I wouldn't be surprised if he was starting over Josh. But it's just like you're seeing how raw he is. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that they go after in the trade deadline because I feel like they're looking for basically Dorian, but maybe better. And they don't feel like Josh is long enough to be more, because he's a small guy. Like, as far as like, I mean, he's a guard. So,
right.
So I think that's why there's a fight to even though in theory, like you look at it like that's your 5 best players, why aren't they playing together?
Yes.
But at the same time, you can see the practice.
Yeah. The 5 best player stuff, it's kind of more about who finishes in certain situations.
Yeah.
And, you know, these earlier games they played, the Spurs have such an odd lineup of guys. The Timberwolves do as well. So I don't mind the rotating roster, like lineup flexibility of different guys doing different things. So I feel pretty good about where they are. Of course, you know, the Denver game 2 games from now could completely change my mind if Denver like swats them out of the sky. But, you know, what we're aiming for, and I know a lot of us really want the Mavericks to obviously go further than the first round, but after missing the playoffs, my short-term goal is getting to the playoffs, like being a real true top 8 seed. And coming into the year, I was cautiously optimistic, but I've seen enough from these first 3 games to kind of see the vision. And if they're able to execute enough over a long season, I think top 8 is reasonable. Maybe tops. I mean, maybe like 5 to 6 even.
What I've been saying even before the season started was I felt like they were an 8 seed, but in all likelihood, a 6 seed, because people that I have above them before the season starts are probably going to stay. And we're kind of seeing that play out right now against the team we just played, being one of them. And Lakers aren't looking too hot either. So there's a lot of I think that's why even a bunch of the media had the Mavs so low. Like, people could say, oh, it's disrespectful, but you can really just sit back and laugh because guys that they thought were going to be top teams are going to stink. Like, there's several of them.
I agree. The Lakers in particular look messy. What are they at right now? Yeah, they're losing to Orlando, who looks, by the way, kind of terrifying. Orlando seems to have something, really, really something.
They got beat by a close. Get this, they got beat by a closing lineup featuring JaVale McGee, Harrison Barnes, Malik Monk, and Keegan Murray.
The Lakers, you mean?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they elected
Yes.
to go shot for shot against shoot. What you just said his name, the former University of Kentucky guy.
Malik Monk.
Malik Monk, yeah. Like trading shot for shot with Monk is stupid. He's good. That's what he does. He scores.
Right. Yeah, they're just overrated. I don't think they're a top team. Like, I think a lot of people had them, they're going to be 3 or 4, but to me, they look like the 8 seed that's going to be fighting for a play-in.
Right.
And Gabe Vincent's going to get is next to take the Russell Westbrook, Kyle Kuzma baton.
That's right.
So,
all right, man. We got anything else for us?
Nothing much. Just go Rangers, go Mavs.
All right, man. Talk to you next time.
All right.
Let's see here. Coming up next, we got Robert. Robert, welcome to the show. What's going on tonight?
Hey, Kirk. Sorry, I don't have a camera on this computer.
That is perfectly fine. You sound good.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Dante Exum. I think he's a pretty important player for this team.
Ooh.
Him and Seth Curry seem like, at least tonight, specifically in the third quarter and in early fourth quarter, 2 of the only guys willing to actually go and set up an offense instead of catch the ball and either shoot it or dribble towards Luka or have Luka run towards them. I think when these guys are actually willing to set up an offense and let Luka play a little bit more on the weak side, one, his usage rate goes down. His minutes later in the game can be a little more productive. And I just think the entire offense flows better when you have guys like that willing to actually set up the offense. I was wondering your thoughts on this.
I like the concept. My main question then becomes like, do we feel like the Mavericks earnestly have an offense? That's kind of my challenge right now, where I see the occasional action, and I'm not great about spotting this stuff in real time.
Yeah.
But when you watch certain things on replays, like when certain people break down stuff, like Grant Afseth breaks down film over at DallasBasketball.com, Josh Bowe does it for us every now and again. It just doesn't feel like they run anything that's too complex. It's a lot of two-man games, sometimes things with like double screens and staggered screens. And if they're going to run more of an offense, I think there needs to be more motion on the weak side, when instead it feels like and this is NBA offenses in general. It's not just the Mavericks, but it's like when Luka's on the weak side, he just does a lot of standing there. And I hate that.
Well, and, one, I think if he can stand there and steal 24 seconds on a possession, I mean, I think most stars in the NBA do that, at least occasionally.
Yeah, but the usage stuff, I think, in terms of him, this is why I like him and Kyrie playing together, because when Kyrie's off ball, or I mean Seth Curry even to a degree, you could just see the way these guys make defenses panic because they got to account for them at all times. And so I would certainly like to see Luka play more with Exum. I don't think we've seen enough of it through 3 games because Exum's not gotten a ton of run, but I certainly like the idea. I wouldn't shock me if Kid experiments with it at some point.
Yeah, because like a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., he kind of seems like a black hole when he brings the ball down, meaning he is either going to shoot it or turn it over. And I guess that's one way to steal 24 seconds for Luka, but it's not the most productive way to do it, in my opinion.
That's right. I think that's absolutely fair. I like that.
My other question for you is, the opponents made a run late here. The Grizzlies made a run late here, and Kid called a timeout, and the Mavs actually seemed to respond to the timeout and go on a counter run, which last year in the fourth quarter they didn't seem to do. I don't know if this is the difference in personnel here, or if our luck in the clutch is changing now. I mean, we were, a pretty bad clutch team last year, and now I think we're officially 3-0 in clutch games. I think this got down to under 5 in 5 minutes.
Well, I remember the play specifically that you're talking about because Josh Bowe and I talked about it on the recap. I got to see if the Mavericks subbed anybody out during that timeout. Let me go look here because this was kind of it was pretty important. The Mavericks got down by 3. All right, full timeout. Kleber enters the game for Lively. That's kind of a neither here nor there sub to what happened next. The Mavericks had a play out of the timeout, which was a nice play. Josh Green gets the ball on a swing reversal on basically going from left to right, standing at the right wing. And the dude doesn't even look at the rim. He goes to pass it immediately. And then something triggers in his brain. And he's like, there's no one near me. I'm going to go to the rim and score. That sort of thing. I'm not sure if Josh does that last year. Josh's offensive evolution has been very interesting because he's so odd. He does a lot of stuff by like rote memory, I think. And playing a little more free form when he's not the one of the lead ball handlers, I think it makes him a little nervous. So the decision making that he had tonight was strong, and I liked that. And that game, that play, that put the Mavericks, that steadied them. It was at the 5-minute mark in the fourth quarter. It was key, and I just think having more guys that can dribble and dribble confidently, and those same players also having the freedom to know that they can make those decisions helps this Mavericks team a lot.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it gives the teams more options. I mean, it's not just Kyrie or Luka where it's going to attack the defense. I mean, this was a perfect example where you had Josh Green attack the defense. I think a guy like Seth Curry could attack the defense, Exum again. I mean, I just think we can actually attack the defense. I think, this game we had like a historically great shooting percentage in the first half. I think we were like 58% from threes or something. I saw someone tweet. Let's see if I can give him credit.
It was many. It was 15 to 26 from 3. It was many threes.
Yeah, and so I don't know if we are still again going to be a slave to 3-point shooting this year, but I do think we actually have the option to to have the players and tools to attack the rim that we didn't have last year. So, last year it seemed like if the threes weren't falling, plan B was shoot more threes.
Yeah.
Where here it seems like we actually have other plans, which is beneficial. I guess my last question to you is kind of playing devil's advocate here. I kind of understand why Jason Kidd has been apprehensive to start Lively and Josh Green, because these are two kind of high energy guys who in the beginning of games, the games seem to be officiated a little bit more tightly. The refs really try and get a handle of the game, and these high energy guys, as I think we saw tonight, are pretty prone to get early fouls, which change their usage throughout the game.
Sure.
And maybe Lively actually could have benefited from sitting the first 4 or 5 minutes tonight. And
I think the Grizzlies are sort of uniquely positioned to torture a guy like Lively as he's still learning, because he was getting whooped by the old man and Xavier Tillman, and then getting whooped by the young man, even though Tillman's not that old, but then getting, just destroyed by a generational defensive center and Jaren Jackson Jr. This was a tough matchup for him. This was definitely like a growing pains one. And it reminded me, not like in the same stylistically, but when they played the Timberwolves the first game, he had 4 fouls in 12 minutes. And it was just because those guys are huge and big. He'll figure it out. There's something to your idea, but I still want to see him start, just because I think the Luka and him offensive connection is pretty important.
And I agree with you. I'm just devil's advocate to reason.
I bet Kidd messes around with it a lot this year. I bet we don't. It wouldn't. If Lively, I sort of have in my head just a completely arbitrary number, but I think Lively will end up starting like 45 to 55 games, which is pretty amazing. Like, shout out to Sarge in 2013. I'm pretty sure the last time that happened with a rookie center for the Mavericks. So I don't know. We'll see where they go.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Of course. Talk soon. All right. Last we have Brandon hanging out. If anybody else wants to talk, you click the link there in the pinned comments. You can come into the waiting room, and then I will bring you up and we can chat about anything anybody wants to. 11-11. Everybody make a wish. Brandon, what's going on, bub?
Kirk, I'm still playing Madden 2017, so I'm like you. I play one game and that's it.
I can't do it. I have a whole bunch, but it's just, if I start playing, I'll stop doing Mav stuff, and then that gets me in trouble. So
yeah,
what are you going to do?
Yeah, I was addicted to Zelda Twilight Princess. Then I got on Madden 17, and that's about it. But yeah, I got to turn it off before I get addicted. Got to go to work.
All right. So what are we thinking tonight?
Man, and I kind of feel like Memphis lost the game. Dallas really didn't win it, because Memphis, they missed a lot of shots, and if things was falling their way, this is just, to me, if things was falling their way, it just feels like they just drove on Dallas whenever they wanted to, and it was a couple of times I noticed that Memphis was just like having their way, and it is just one of those nice one shots. Well, nothing been falling from Memphis all year.
Marcus Smart giveth and Marcus Smart taketh away. He had some pretty amazing shots, and then also, like, right when they were there, would take like one of those painful, like, why did you shoot that kind of shots? And I see what you mean, because in the first half, it looked like the Mavericks would run away with it. Then Lively picked up his third foul, and then David Roddy started just bodying everyone, and all of a sudden Memphis was right back in it. So if they would have maybe pounded it inside, because they beat the shit out of the Mavericks on points in the paint, like that was really the only statistical category we lost. I think if they would have kept pounding it, there's an argument for what you said, that they could have pushed past the finish line.
And I don't know if you noticed, but man, Josh was picking up dudes at full court, and he was just like on them dudes. Like that was really impressive to, not only to be able to play man full court, but to have the physical ability to keep that energy the whole time is impressive.
Josh's defensive games are all over the map for me, because I agree with you on the stamina and the athletic ability. But the next time I see that man run into a screen like he didn't know it was there, I'm going to scream, because he's just like, he looks like a friggin' cartoon character. He's like, what? The screen at the top of the key? My goodness. It's like,
are you
come
talking
on,
about
man.
That screen when the dude passed it over to the 3-point shooter and he missed? I think he like picked him up at half court. I saw that.
Yeah.
But Dallas, you know what? I was looking, and this is like, it's hard to really to have some type of expectation for them because they look so different than a traditional Dallas team.
Yeah.
You have a group of younger and, semi-athletic guys. Before you kind of know what you were going to get, older guys that they could sign, but now they have guys that has, good role players. And so with them being not just like known guys, it's really just kind of getting to know them. But my main thing is, who's going to be that third ball handler, because you can see Kyrie's out right now. And early in the season, it's like, wow, knock on wood, Luka doesn't get hurt. Who's going to be that third ball handler?
I've liked Exum, and I've liked what I've seen from Josh Green. I mean, that's 3 and 4 for me right there. Hardy, when he does dribbling things, he makes me very old man. Like, he makes me kind of mad because I think he's very, very skilled, but I don't think he doesn't have any burst, just to be quite candid. But that's okay. But I feel like that even Grant Williams can dribble a little bit. Like, there's not to use like a video game analogy again, because we've talked about video games enough, but it's like everybody's sliders are a little turned up where I feel like they can do a little bit more than everybody last year.
To me, and I guess to me, a ball handler should also be somewhat of a facilitator as well.
Sure.
Too.
Okay.
Who would be that facilitator?
I mean, I really do think it's Exum. Like, we've not gotten to see enough of him yet in the regular season, but he can run an offense. I feel confident in that.
Good. So do you feel like he would be, I guess, capable of holding down fort in a worst case scenario until somebody got back healthy?
No, but this team is built around Luka and Kyrie. So if you lose both of those guys, you're kind of effed anyhow.
You're kind of effed anyhow. That's true. Yeah. But I mean, it's just one more thing, Kirk. I mean, looking at the West, to me, Dallas is between that throughout the season that 1 through 8, because this is not the old West. You don't have these dominant teams like you used to. I mean, everything's starting to balance out, and to me, Dallas is definitely top 8 in the West. As long as they don't play themselves out of the playoffs, I think they'll be well. But being that it's Dallas, just like the Cowboys, they'll find some way to mess it up. Well,
we got a lot. It's a long year. Kyrie's foot thing, depending on, I earnestly feel like it's a pain tolerance thing. For anybody out there that's had any sort of like plantar fasciitis type thing, like any sort of discomfort, like foot discomfort sucks. And there's only like, you kind of pain manage it. And it seems like this is something he's been dealing with for a long time. So that's where I'm frustrated about that, but also cautiously optimistic, if that makes any sense.
It seems like for a slasher to be definitely being the plantar fasciitis, being that he can't be as agile as he wanted.
He can, though. It's like he is tougher than nails. There's a lot you could say about Kyrie Irving, but that dude is tough. And so it's do you want to punish him? Like, do you want him to punish his body in Game 3 of the regular season? That's kind of the calculus that I think the Mavericks did tonight.
Yeah, and one last thing, shout out for Luka for not getting no text.
Boom! No text through 3 games. That's a great point.
This is a nice Luka. You need a shirt next time that says hashtag nice Luka.
I would knock on wood, but my dogs are sleeping and they'll lose their shit. So, Brandon, thanks once again for coming up.
Thank you, Kirk.
All right, talk soon. All right. We have one more guest. Krishna popped in. What's up, my guy?
Kirk, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, good win. Definitely a little too close for comfort at the end, but it was nice that at least you're getting clutch wins. Something that just didn't turn.
I guess you know what? Somebody pointed that out in the chat earlier. Let me see if I can find their name. Somebody pointed out it was Nako saying 110 to 105 with under 5 minutes to go. He's right. It's 457. I wonder if the NBA will actually count that as a clutch time win. That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't, it's just these are the kinds of wins where it felt like last season. This felt like the Nuggets game last season where it's like, it was that weird back. I don't remember if it was back to back or it was like one day off or something.
Didn't they win? And we were all baffled.
Yeah, they like essentially it was like this game where the Mavs either I think they were behind for like some of it or they led for a lot of it and then they just lost in the final few minutes. But that's what it felt like it was going to, especially when you didn't have Kyrie for some of those moments. But it felt good. I think we had 3 guys in 20s, which was pretty surprising. I was kind of shocked to see that. And, some of the lineup stuff I think was frustrating when I look at it at first, but I thought most of it played out pretty well. I think the Derek Lively stuff, like some of it is just he's a rookie. He's not going to get the benefit of the doubt on calls. And some of it is just inexperience, which, both of those things are going to take time and just reps. So I don't necessarily worry about that too much. And the defense stuff is still bad. It's not very good. Like I don't know where else like you go from here in terms of the defense. Honestly,
I think they just have to have better starts because the defense, like somebody again, we have excellent commenters. I'm missing I should have flagged this, but as someone pointed out that in under 3 minutes against all 3 of these teams, the Mavericks have given up a grand total of 4 points in 9 total minutes, like the last 3 minutes of each game. Can't find that comment. I apologize to whoever said that, but that's pretty baller.
yeah. I mean, I agree. I do think. I mean, obviously the stats pointed out, but the clutch time defense has been really good. By this team. I think the Nets is kind of like where I think it's been the worst out of these 3 games, but that's also like Cam Thomas was out of his mind playing like some of the shots he took. Like, so that's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, I don't blame you. Like if someone just goes nuts, like what you're not going to do, like it, like I was thinking about, there was like a barrage of tweets from a Grizzlies fan. And like, like if it was Luka, you would just be so pissed. Right. So, but it's the same thing. Right. And I think part of it is, I still not 100% sure whether it's a scheme issue in terms of, is the team not able to apply scheme or do we still have personnel problems? I think it's still a bit of both, I think, in my mind. Right. I think guys are just not doing a good enough job on rotations. And a lot of it is screens. Like guys are getting beat on screens way too easily.
We're an hour into the show. I said it once in the last person. I don't know how many people are going to hear this. Josh Green cannot navigate a screen.
He cannot. He did. In the fourth quarter, I felt like he did a little better, but I don't know what it is about the first, second, third quarters. Like he's not doing well, like at all in navigating screens, and he's over helping at the beginning of games, like you guys talked about in the Brooklyn game. Like it almost feels like he's scarred from last season, where he's like he needs to be on like helping with the ball handler instead of just staying with this guy. But you know what? I think it's a time thing, a little bit of both, right? I don't think it's necessarily one thing or the other, which we'll see how it goes. And, you don't know what other teams are going to do and what the market necessarily looks like. But I think the positive thing is that the offenses look pretty good. Even, I was very worried. There was that stretch in the fourth quarter where like Luka was just not out there. And I was like,
we're averaging 125.3 points per game. We're having a great time.
It's insane. It's insane. It's very fun, right? Like I was thinking like, yeah, this is not necessarily like a team offense, right? Where it's like a lot of ball passing. It's very ISO heavy still, but it's just efficient to a point where it's very, very different. And I think that's the positive. You just take positives that you're 3-0, which I don't like. I think it was like 04, 03 or 04, right? Was the last time the Mavs were 3-0?
405 is what they said.
405, which is a miracle. I mean, it's 20 plus years at this point. But you just take that and you kind of run away with it. I think Nuggets are next, right?
Bulls and Nuggets.
Bulls and Nuggets.
Everybody's looking ahead because they want to play the Nuggets. But the Bulls, I think they're a sneaky.
They're going to be tough. They have great perimeter defense, but they're like. They have no rim protection.
Yeah.
They have no rim protection. So it'll be an interesting game. I actually think Caruso would be an interesting pickup if the Bulls start selling. But we also have so many guards. We have so many guards.
One of the little birdies that I have in my life, because I don't do a lot of reporting. Because why? Like, what's the value in that? A little birdie told me this last offseason, the start of this offseason, that in 2019, the morning that the Mavericks signed Boban, the night before they had a kind of verbal agreement with him to be a Maverick. And the deal, Cuban kind of changed his mind and they opted not to do it. He's a heck of a basketball player. You muted yourself.
He felt very Austin Reeves like. I mean, now like he was kind of the original Austin Reeves,
Right?
but
Kind of proto Reeves. Yeah.
yeah. But it feels like he went to Chicago and he kind of proved like, hey, I'm not just like a.
He's really like he does the Josh Green thing where he won't score, like he won't shoot.
Oh yeah,
but he can defend his ass off.
Yes, he's a much more experienced and better perimeter player than anyone we really have. You know what he's like? He's kind of like Reggie in that sense, where I think he's not as good of a shooter as Reggie when Reggie's really on, but he's just as good a perimeter defender, I think. But ultimately, like, I think everyone wants to go and get, like, obviously the popular one is OG, and I would love OG on this team, but I think before you make those moves, it's kind of about, like, it's a balance of seeing what you have right now and if you can fix it, and also just like getting a really good opportunity. And I think, like you've mentioned, it feels like Kid is kind of just throwing Hardaway out there just to like get him off the team in a weird way, which I feel is self-sabotaging in a way. It's like, well, you still want to win games, so I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to do, but you move on, and Tim is Tim. Like, I don't necessarily have the same frustrations with Tim and like Dwight as everyone does, because I feel like we've seen the really best of these guys, and when they're really good, they're contributing players, but they clearly have limitations and in different manners. And you have to, like, very smart coaches and good coaches are able to minimize that through scheme and role and just fitting that way around it. And so I don't know if Kid is good enough to do that, but we'll see what happens. And not really much to complain. Just move on to Chicago, and happy that we can go home without worrying about blowing a clutch game.
That's right.
10-point lead, a 10-point lead, Kirk. Oh God. Oh,
I mean, it's a 17-point lead.
Oh God, stop.
It's 17 points. They gave up 13 points in 3 minutes. It was horrendous.
I couldn't even. Oh, okay. Goodness. And the worst part was I was watching 4 other games at the same time, so I could not. It was oh God.
Just juggling your stress.
Oh, it was not great. I was glad at least 3 of the teams I was watching won, so I didn't feel horrible today, but it would have been worse if all of them lost. It literally 2 of the games came down to the wire, and I was like, I cannot do this. You can't do this to me.
Of course.
All right. Thanks, man. Kirk. Have a good night.
All right. Another fun show. A little over 45 minutes. Guess 50 minutes we have here. Remember, guys, if you're at all, I know some people they've kind of mentioned to me, I don't really want to, elements of like stage fright to an extent, but guys, you're just talking basketball with friends. It's like going to the gym, talking in open court. I don't have any coworkers that give a shit about basketball, so that's why we do this. Hope you guys come back. We'll do this again on Wednesday night. Thanks so much for hanging out. Everybody be good, and we will talk to you on Wednesday. Bye. Go Mavs.